Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So excited to have you on this morning.
Hey, everyone.
Hello. Oh, there, Lynn. So we are just wanted to just greet you here this morning. This is great. You are in the right place, and I should have something in the chat to tell you that. And I just messed things up. So no, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. So there we go. It will sit there for just a moment, and I will welcome
backstage
you
meet.
I will welcome you more officially in just a second. Lynn, it's so great to see you. Can't wait to see you next week. Next week, couple days. Yep. It'll be fun. And looking forward to that. And Chris, lovely to see you. Oh, Chris, you'll like this one. You'll like this.
Chris?
Yes, Chris will like this one. That's
Western New York.
This is an interesting progression from what Adam was just talking about.
Okay.
I mean, what a process the man goes through.
He talked about his process today. Did he talk about his process today?
Oh, he would.
At length.
He talked about a little bit about the creation of the story he told last night.
Okay.
And he said he was thinking about the structure of a Sibelius symphony.
The second symphony.
Very accessible music.
And he works. I'm assuming that when he was talking about the wall and the pieces of paper, y'all, that he was talking about stories that he has created himself, not with the folklore that he tells.
Okay.
But it just was.
But who knows?
Yeah. Well, he's amazing. But hey, Kate, are you making sure you get in there? And then Sheila's in here twice, but I don't know. Hi, Sheila. This is Sheila.
Hi.
All righty. I'm going to stop the share. I think you all know where you are at this particular moment. At least I hope you do. Welcome this morning. And for some of you all, you've been up for a little while, and I haven't had my coffee yet. Let's just be honest. I haven't had my coffee yet. And so I am in a hotel room and we'll be getting coffee very shortly. That's wonderful to have you all here, though. So want to make sure, want to welcome you so much to Sharing the Fire, the Audacious Art of Telling Stories, 42nd Annual Conference presented by Northeast Storytelling Nest. The last 2 years, it's been entirely online, and now it is both live in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, woohoo, and it is wherever you are, which is great. And we now are in partnership with Artists Standing Strong Together, and Artists Standing Strong Together is so excited to be with Nest on this partnership, making sure that people can still go to programs even if they can't physically be there. So it's just our excitement to be there. Just a reminder that this event is for storytellers, story listeners, and story lovers. So your friends and colleagues can still sign up all weekend long. And in order to do that, I've put that in the chat. So registration is still available. Get your friends. If you're enjoying what you have so far, please share with them. So we'd love to have more. The workshop is being recorded, and videos will be distributed for commercial and non-commercial use by Nest and Assist. This includes all of you getting access to these recordings after the event for 2 weeks from the date we send them to you. If you don't want to be seen, turn your video off. So that is an option you have. And I will say there will be times that we'll be talking and communicating with one another, but you can still do that with your computer off if you need to or want to. And I've put that into the chat just so that everybody is aware of where we are. Now, I don't think I have any other housekeeping notes. Cory is going to share with us a bit. There is going to be time for you to do some actual work on what Cory has, which is exciting. So I would love for make sure that you have, Big Jackson get in the room here really quickly. So I want to make sure that you have close at hand some paper and also pen or pencil that you'll need because you are going to be actually doing some of the work, which is great. And you're going to walk away with things in your hands. So let me bring in Jay Alexander. And so, Jay, welcome, welcome. So just a reminder again that if you want to be able to have some, that this workshop is being recorded and the videos are being distributed for commercial and non-commercial purposes by Assist and Nest. If you do not wish to have your image recorded, you may leave your video off. However, if you have a picture in your space where your video is, then your picture will be recorded. Just wanted to let you know that in general. And so breakout rooms, we will not have breakout rooms, so don't worry about that. And please have paper and pencil ready to go for this program. Let me introduce, with great joy, our wonderful workshop leader, workshop presenter today, Cory Howard. And Cory Howard lives in Johnson City, Tennessee, and he has completed, I was writing over this intro, and it was an earlier intro where it said he was completing his master's, but he has completed his master's and is going to be graduating next month in communication and storytelling studies at East Tennessee State University. For over a decade, he was a teaching artist with the Story Pirates, which is a nationally recognized arts education organization that turns students' stories into live performance. And I'm gonna make sure that I mute everybody here. Okay. Thank you for a moment there. And Cory has produced his own show, which is currently at is this the same show, Cory, that is at the Asheville Fringe right now, or is it?
Correct.
Okay, so Cory has produced his own show called The Campfire Ball, and it is an immersive storytelling event created in the moment around the anecdotes of the audience, and has been performed in colleges and campuses all across the United States, and is currently, including last night, being performed at the Asheville, North Carolina Fringe Festival. So he is a busy man. And the other thing I just want to say is that Cory has a heart for learning. And so his learning has led him to interact and do a lot of introspection about his own work and the work that he does. And what he wants to do is actively involve the audience. So him teaching this is perfect for getting ideas rolling just like he does when he is performing, and always finding a way to teach in the midst of that. So without further ado, we invite Cory Howard to begin his presentation. Welcome, Cory.
Wow, Sheila, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see if we can live up to this intro. Hey everyone, I'm so happy to be here with y'all, and I hope you're having a good festival. We are just going to spend some quality time together and talk through some story development ideas, basically. So this is going to be kind of loose and informal. There's going to be some time to do some work and some time to get together and share. So feel free to be yourselves and jump in if you want to, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us. But yeah, let me tee up this workshop really quickly. So like as Sheila was saying, I'm really interested in stories that do stuff. I'm interested in putting the audience to work a little bit. For example, like Sheila mentioned, I have this show called The Campfire Ball, where the whole show is built around me trying to get the audience to share their stories with me. And then when I do storytelling, I like to tell stories maybe that are a puzzle that the audience sort of has to fit together as we're going along. And by the end, like a large picture is revealed, or a story that is nested in one story that's buried inside another story. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about the general concept for the story that I'm telling, and the framing devices and the kind of tools I can use to sort of exemplify the way I'm going to tell those stories. And I think that no matter what part of your storytelling journey you're on right now, that this is going to be a fun experience, because if you're new to it, I think it can help. Talking about framing devices and concepts can help give you some tools to explore finding your voice and figuring out what kind of stories you're interested in telling. And if you've been doing this for a long time, you're going to walk away today with some new nuggets and some new sparks. So I think hopefully it's a win-win. But if not, hey, feel free to review this workshop on Yelp and just take it down. I'm all about that. I'm all about the constructive feedback. So one of the reasons I like thinking about concepts and framing devices, which I separate from the actual idea of the story, and we'll get into that a little bit more, is just because it helps me if I have just one little tiny idea for a story and I just don't know what to do with it. Like, let's say for whatever reason, I'm looking at my bird feeder right now that's on my window, and I just go, I want to tell a story about my bird feeder. Well, that's not really an idea. It's just something that's calling to me. So if I start thinking about the framing devices, it can help me figure out how it can become a story. Maybe you just came across your great grandmother's wedding ring and it's just like tugging at you. But in and of itself, it's just a wedding ring. So what are you going to do with that? This is where thinking about the framing devices and thinking about the kind of story you want to tell can really come into play. Okay, it can help you sort of crack a code. It can help you turn anything into a story that you just find joy in telling and that you're really excited about. So to start us off, let's just, if you don't mind, let's go around the grid and just say who we are and what your relationship is to storytelling. So I'm not sure if everyone here is like a storyteller in the oral storytelling sense or a writer so is that all right? Can we go through and just share that with each other? And I guess Zoom is we don't have the same order for everyone. So I'll just call you out by name, and you don't have to put on your stuff on camera if you don't want to. And you don't even have to share if you don't. You can type it in the chat, but whatever you're comfortable with. So I'll just say your name, and then you can interact however you're comfortable. So Sheila, do you mind starting us off and just sort of saying hi?
Hi, I'm Sheila Arnold, and I am been a professional storyteller now for 20 years. And was that the question, or was there something more?
You nailed it. No, that's exactly what I want to know. Just what's your relationship to storytelling and whatever that means to you. Steve and Sue, I know y'all are hanging out, but are you playing along? Do you want to say hi?
Sure, I'll play along. So I'm Steve Doubt, and I've been doing all sorts of different kinds of things on the stage for many, many years. But the form that we called storytelling, I have been doing for the last 8 years. And before that, I did things like magic and stand-up comedy and so forth. So
right on. Thank you. All right, Sue, I see you.
Yeah, I'm Sue Kessler. I am the executive director of Artists Standing Strong Together. So I'm here in a support role, both for the conference as well as our organization. But I'm a huge supporter, a great story listener, and I love thinking about stories a lot. So I hope in the future to keep facilitating conversations around stories, and I really enjoy that.
Thanks so much, Sue. And we got to say, can't thank you enough, because what's a story without someone to hear it? All right, Chris, do you mind sharing and saying hi?
Hi, I'm in way Western New York. We're far away from each other. I've been a professional storyteller for 30 years. I tell folktales. I'm disabled, so traveling is a little bit difficult, so I've started writing novels. Oh my God.
Well.
For middle grade, and I don't think they're picture books, but I just thought of a picture book. So I don't know where that's going.
How cool is that? Can't wait for it. Okay, Sheila, other Sheila, not that you're the other Sheila, whose last name is not available to us. There we go. I see you next. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm from not quite as far away as Chris is in New York State. I've been, I got into storytelling back in the 80s. and just gone through various phases with it. Currently, my love, my work that I want to do, I started researching a story on my great grand aunt, who was one of the first 12 women doctors in America. And I got so much research that I said, this is more than a story I could tell. So I wanted to get it all written down so it wouldn't get lost or forgotten. But since then, I found out more information, and I've gotten some of her own words that she wrote. It was beautiful. So I have another part to do on that. It's not done. And I'm hoping to get it done. And I just want to say this to clarify something. Oops, I did it again.
No, we can hear you.
I just wiped myself out. I'm currently dealing with a traumatic brain injury, have some aphasia going on and stuff like that. I am making improvement, and that's why I may be a little halting in my speech, and I might not understand things right away. But just wanted to let you know, I hope no one's uncomfortable by that. I'm not that self-conscious about it because I'm just living with it. Thank you.
Well, Sheila, thank you so much for sharing that with us. We are so glad to have you. And you know what? Let's think of this little group as a little tiny family that's going to exist until noon. So what a wonderful group we have. Thank you. Penny Post, I'm looking at you if you're comfortable saying hi and what your connection story is.
Hi, I am in a senior resident community on the South Shore of Boston. I've been involved in storytelling for 30 or 40 years. I've kind of lost track. And I lived in Los Angeles for 30 years and produced a lot of house concerts there. And I'm here, I know maybe 4 or 5 people here, and I wouldn't miss STF even if I have to do it from here. So.
Wow. How about that? And my show Campfire Ball started in my backyard in Los Angeles. So there's our little connection there. I love house shows. I think they're the most intimate and connective type of creative experience. Kate, I see you next.
Hi, I'm from the Albany, New York area. I've been a professional storyteller for 25 years, specializing in true stories of real people who made a difference. But I also tell some personal stories and the occasional folktale. I've also been producing storytelling events at a storytelling dinner series, and now we just finished our 16th season at a performing arts center in Schenectady with partners.
Wow. Well, we are really lucky to have you today. Thanks for coming in. Gert Johnson, I'm looking at you now.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Gert Johnson. I'm from Schenectady, New York, right next to Albany. I'm a founder and still co-director of an interfaith story circle, which began in 1993. So we're 30 years this year. And we're working currently with Dutchess County Interfaith Story Circle, and Assist is helping us to launch a network to help build story connections between people of different faiths around our country and other countries in our world.
Wow, boy, is that vital work. Thank you so much for helping out with that. We could use you right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Lynn. Looking at you now.
Lynn.
I'm Lynn, living in Florida at the moment. I was a theater major, loved acting and directing. And when I lived in Massachusetts, I was exposed to storytelling, so that when I moved to Georgia and had twins moved to Georgia, and couldn't really be in theater anymore because I couldn't work full time and rehearse at night, I turned to storytelling. And for about 20 years, did some events in Georgia, but haven't done it for the past 9 years since moving to Florida. And now that I've retired my actual profession, I'm turning back to it. Mostly as a support person. I'm now on the Florida Storytelling Association board, and active in assist. But I'm working my way back into telling again.
Well, we're glad to have you back. I got the chance to work with Lynn on an assist event as a tech host, and she is an amazing MC. All right, Jackson, you are up.
I'm Jackson from Onset, Massachusetts, near Cape Cod. I've been saying I've been storytelling for 40 years for several years, so I guess that means I've been doing it for more like 45. And I do a lot of, incorporate a lot of music and movement in my work.
Very cool. Music and movement and storytelling. How fun is that? Thanks for sharing. Hi, Angela.
Angela.
We'll give her a second. Hi, Judith. You comfortable saying hi and sharing?
Hello. It's before my wake up time here in Seattle, so I was eating breakfast. I've been telling stories for, well, probably 30 years as a school librarian, learning from Margaret Reed MacDonald. And my sweetheart is German, so I commute between the two countries, and I tell stories mostly in English when I'm in Munich, and was lucky enough to be involved in a European Union grant to work with Scottish and Latvian storytellers in 2005, I think. So, and I'm still telling, but it's both harder and easier with Zoom, I must say.
Very well said. That is, I think we all understand that sort of paradox about how Zoom has really connected us, and also, boy, is it a different world when it comes to actually performing. Angela, are you up to saying hi?
Good morning. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Sheila sent me the prompt, so thank you. My name is Angela Lloyd, and I live in Victorville, California. That is east of Los Angeles. And my relationship with storytelling is that it has been my full-time profession since 1986, when I heard Panina Schramm say, every person has 3 names: the name you're given when you're born, the name your friends give you, and the name you give yourself. And she said, those of you who call yourselves, who use the name storyteller, ask yourself, how did you get that name?
Wow.
So when I heard that story at the Santa Fe NSN conference, the national conference, it was then that I took on that name.
That rules,
I
Angela.
came from a theater background. I trained as a repertory classic regional actress in conservatory. Florida State ran their master's program in Sarasota. And when I got out of school in 78, I was looking for a way that I could create my own work. Could I be an actor and still do that which I was trained to do and born to do without someone else giving me a job, without someone casting me in a play? And that inspiration came from my mother, who was a composer and a pianist, and who initiated most of the performance work she did, including renting Carnegie Recital Hall to play a concert of all of her own music. How do you get to Carnegie Recital Hall? You rent it. 1973, January 24, 1973. So she passed away in her sleep in 1980. And out of that, I took up that inspiration from her creating her own work. And I have since then worked as an I'll keep this short, an actor in residence with various children's theater companies in Idaho and Omaha and Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the last primary work I've done has been a teaching artist in residence at a progressive independent school in Pasadena for 9 years, 1999 to 2000, 98 to '07. I followed Milbury Birch's path at the Walden School, and 2009 to 2021, I followed Kathleen Zundell's path. She was a storyteller in LA. May her memory be a blessing. And I was at Children's Community School for 12 years and decided to retire from commuting 96 miles one way to my school when the school went back on campus. So currently, I am planting my feet here in my home, and I am absolutely feeling that wanderlust, and I am ready to begin to travel and work, and to look and to connect with a local school.
Great.
That was a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, right on, Angela. Thank you so much for sharing. And I've gotten the chance to see you perform too, and it's a beautiful, effervescent experience. So I'm really glad to have you in here.
Thank you.
Hi, Pat. I just want to say hello. And if you're up for it, we've just gone around the grid, the circle, if you will, and just said who we are and what our relationship to story and storytelling is, whatever that means to you.
I'm a little old lady, and my favorite introduction is Pat Coffey was born interested and Iowan, and she talks about it.
That is great.
I'm having a good time.
That would make Hemingway proud, that intro. Well, I am so honored to be in this group of extremely, wow, hardworking and advanced storytellers. A lot of what we're going to do today is going to be very, basic stuff that you already know, but I feel like you can't do that kind of stuff enough. It just is so good and helpful to just continue to hammer it all in your muscle memory. Even I feel like the most seasoned musicians still run through their scales every single day. So let me just tell you a little bit about what the flow of the workshop is going to be. We're going to do a little warm-up activity, just a little sort of unlocking activity. And then you're going to hear me just talky for a few minutes. And then we're going to do a couple of writing exercises and share what we have. Thanks, Judith. And we'll share what we have together. And that'll be that. So, all right, let's go ahead and get down to some activities. So for this warm-up activity, we're just going to take 5 minutes. I want you to grab the first thing that you see. The first thing I see are this pair of sunglasses that was on my desk. And we're going to take 5 minutes and just write down everything you can think of using these sunglasses for that is not what they are conventionally made for. So my first thought is I could use them to pry open a door or pick a lock or something like that. So just spend 5 minutes really just expanding your mind. There's no wrong answers. And the more absurd places you go, the better. And it doesn't have to make logical sense. So I'm going to give you all 5 minutes to work through that exercise. You can turn your camera off if you prefer to sort of work and write in private. And then we'll share a little bit. Okay?
Cory, is that we're not doing your sunglasses, we're doing whatever we see right beside us.
That is correct. Thanks, Sheila.
Okay.
Yes. Feel free to tag in at any point if I'm unclear about something. Yeah, just choose anything that sort of like calls to you in your room or just whatever you first see. About 45 seconds left. Okay, go ahead and wrap up your last thought, and whenever we're ready. Okay, I think people are coming back. So I'd love to hear anyone who's comfortable sharing what item you chose and some of the ideas that emerged. All right, I saw Pat first.
Mine is this coffee mug, which actually could be a paperweight, a gift, a cookie cutter, a pen and pencil holder, a color coordination device,
Oh.
a fragrance dispenser, storage for the rose petals from the roses from my son, a measurer, or a memento.
Pat, incredible. So did you find as the ideas, as you went further and further down, was it harder to come up with the ideas, or did your mind go to more expansive places?
My favorite thing in storytelling is that reminds me. So one thing leads to another and another and another.
Wow, that is beautiful. Thanks so much. Chris, do you want to share what you came up with?
And to answer what your question, the farther along I went, the farther out from reality it got.
Yeah.
Because I have my coffee cup, of course. So of course it starts with a pencil holder. Oh, and we can put a magical coif in here, or it can catch rain, or it could be a hat for a miniature creature, or a home for a little creature, or a flower pot, or a rolling pin, or a cookie cutter. It could be one of those official stamps at the bottom of some proclamation. Could be a giant's earring. The glaze holds ingredients, or the pattern is a spell, or it could be a shovel. If it's broken, it can be a weapon, or the pieces then could be an antenna for receiver. Or maybe they those broken pieces go together in a different way to form a map.
Wow.
So I had a
Bravo.
good time.
Chris, you went for it. You basically started a few stories in there already. That's incredible. Anybody else feel called? Kate. I think you're still muted.
I looked at this lip balm,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be a tiny cup, could be an exercise tool. I could pick up lint with it. I could write invisible messages and make music by scraping it against my fingernail there. I could blow into it. It makes a noise on and off. I could make noise that way. It could be a tiny drumstick, a hand warmer. I could be soothed by stroking the smooth label. I could draw pictures on a window or mirror. I could lick it if I was hungry. I could soothe a bug bite. The smell is quite soothing also, and I could smile back at the little image on it.
Wow, wow, wow. That was amazing. My favorite is how optimistic it is that you could lick it if you were hungry. That would just do. Jackson, I saw your hand go up. Yeah.
All right. I've got a binder here. I could use it to hold papers, or I could use it as a prop in a story, and inspired by Adam. They could be wings of a bird flying. They could be a screen to hide behind. It could be, I could use the latches here to crack nuts with. I could use it as a rain hat. I could use it as an applaud, like play, like applaud things. Yay, that was great, dude! Great, doing a great job, Cory. I could use it as a placemat, so to eat on. I could use it as a toy and make a ramp, like a level thing. I could use it as a fig leaf, clothing to hire. I could use it as a mallet to pound something, or I could use it as a drum.
Bravo. That was a tour de force. That was basically a one-person show right there. Thank you so much. Okay, so am I seeing anybody else that?
I think it was Judith. Judith, I think you had your hand up. Is that correct?
Okay.
Oh, no, if you didn't, I'm sorry. I thought I saw it up.
Okay, I wanted to show I'll just tell you quick because I have a short list. I have a ball of wool yarn, which I just bought and now I've lost my list, it looks like. But I could use it to dust. I could use it for the beginning of a tin can telephone, or I could use it to get out of my window in case of an emergency. And outside is a tree with a raccoon in it. Sometimes I could use it for a net or a lasso for catching that raccoon, maybe. Or a finger warmer, like that. A little pillow for my head, but nothing as creative as Jackson's anyway. So thank you.
Well, I want to say, Judith, very practical purposes. It makes me want to go out and buy a ball of yarn and just take it on an airplane. Now I can sleep, and maybe if things go poorly on that airplane, I can escape from it. Who knew?
And then I
could, that's right.
Maybe knit while I'm on the plane too.
You can take knitting needles on a plane. Fun fact.
Well, I was told, yes, if it looks like you're a real knitter.
That sounds like profiling.
That? Like if you're not a big football player type. What about Rosie Greer and his cross stitching?
Yep, that is very
point or whatever it was.
I know exactly
what I was told.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Sheila.
Usually I try not to play since I speak up, but I had such a good time with this because I had a hard time. And so I had my glasses and I just kept looking at them, and then finally it hit and then it wouldn't stop. So it's a good nose picker.
Yeah.
It's a back scratcher. It's a beat maker because I can take it and tap it down, and it's a model. So I can just put it someplace and draw pictures from it. And it's a Chewy for a baby. It's an eye chart because it has writing on the side of it, and I'm certain you can't read it in spite of it. It's a coffee stirrer and a small hole digger. It is a pointer, and it's a signal when in trouble. Like I can cross it, and that means trouble or something like that. I could pass sick or sick. And it's a fire starter because I can have the sun. But yes, the nose picker is what started me off. It was awful.
I just want to call attention to what you said, which was you had nothing and then they all started coming all at once, which I think is a very beautiful sentiment about the muse and the creative force behind writing and building stories. I think it's really easy for us to dismiss something that isn't coming, but it will, if you continue to show up, and honor the spirit of creativity, something comes, and then when it comes, it is like oil is spewing out of the ground all of a sudden. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. This is the part where I run my mouth for a few minutes, so just bear with me, just so we can establish a little bit of a foundation for what we're going to do. But I just want to say you all did such an amazing job with that warm-up exercise. I feel warmed up, and I think that I am going to have a blast working through some of this stuff with y'all and hearing what you come up with. I could really do that thing all day long where we just listen to what people came up with for their coffee mugs and binders. Okay, so let's just identify a couple of clear definitions for a framing device and for concepts, just for the sake of this workshop. Let's talk about framing devices really quickly. I think the easiest way, and obviously it goes without saying, I know you all already know everything about the things I'm going to talk about. But again, this is just like for muscle memory and for the purpose of doing the exercise that's going to follow. So I like to think of a framing device as a clothesline that you can hang your story on. You can hang your plot on. You can use the device to connect details that maybe you can't figure out other ways to connect them. And it can give you a roadmap for your story when it gets stuck. So some of my favorite framing devices are, everybody remember the movie Singing in the Rain? I'm not sure like how detailed everyone's memory is, but the framing device of Singing in the Rain is that the whole movie is set inside of the interviews of the red carpet for the premiere of the movie they made within the movie. So each actor comes up and they ask the actor a question, and that question kind of fades into a memory of what was happening in the production of the movie for Singing in the Rain. And so the whole thing is used as an excuse to get into the story behind the story. So they may give an answer that sounds like one thing, but then we see as the audience that the truth of it was a lot more nuanced and more complicated. Another one of my favorite framing devices that's used regularly, but this is my favorite way that it's been used, is the story The Color Purple, which specifically in the book, though the movie does this a little bit too, but the book is told through the main character, Celie. The whole book is just her writing letters to God. It's all framed around that. And all of the plot and all of her character development is brought out through these sort of epistolary letters to God. And I'm gonna call Sheila out. I'm gonna put Sheila on the spot. Is she okay? Sheila, I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite framing devices that you have. I hope that's okay with you, but I'm not sure. Has anyone ever seen Sheila tell her Brer Rabbit and Tar Baby story? So those of you who've seen it, and Sheila, I'm sorry if I don't do it justice, but she introduces the story talking about how the imagery from the Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby story has been used throughout the years to sort of point to a lot of very, very hard racial stereotyping and bigotry, and that a lot of times, we can watch that story and not necessarily have connected those details, but Sheila presents her personal experience with that. And then when she goes into the Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby story, thanks to the framing device that is the intro, we now see that story in a completely different context entirely. And it's all thanks to the way that she sets up the audience for that. So a framing device can also be a tool to help you recontextualize a story that is as old as time or that you've been telling for a million years. It can help frame a folktale in a new light for our audiences today. And then one example from my own storytelling practice was I had a desire to tell a story about a tree that was cut down in my backyard, and I just couldn't figure out how to make it into something. And I just sort of let it sit for a while. And then at some point I heard a story about a woman who discovered that trees can communicate with each other using fungal networks. And she was sort of made fun of at first. They called it the Wood Wide Web. And then I stumbled across this Estonian folktale about trees used to talk to each other until they started complaining too much because we were cutting them down and we couldn't deal with it anymore. So we forbid them to talk to each other. And so I found a way to sort of tell a story like the rings of a tree, where I started with my backyard, which led into the woman who discovered that trees could communicate, which led into the story about us stopping trees from communicating with each other. So all of a sudden, the framing device of thinking about it like rings on a tree opened up a way for me to tell that story. So that's how I'm thinking about framing devices for the sake of this workshop. And now let's talk about the concepts, storytelling concepts, really quickly. This is a broad tool that I would define as a central idea of your story that is anything other than the plot, okay? So this can be big and vague, like the concept of my story is I want a ghost to be the narrator of my story, for example. But also, if you're up for challenging yourself, it could be a rule that you place on your story to help you tell it. So it could be like, I'm going to tell a story and I won't use any proper nouns. And so that will be sort of the thing that you start to build the story around. Those of you who have ever seen the movie Memento, it goes from backwards. It starts at the end of the movie and it goes to the beginning of the movie. So it works backwards. That's the concept of that story. People who are fans of Bill Lepp and his storytelling, you already know his concept in most of his stories is that they start out with a nugget of actual truth, and then they get a little bit less true, and then they get so wildly, unbelievably tall-taily by the end. That's the progression. Those are the concepts in a lot of his stories. But I was also talking to him one time, and I've never actually seen him tell this story, but he said he has so much forward movement in his stories and so much adventure that he wanted to challenge himself one time. And he thought, how can I tell a story where I physically don't go anywhere? And he came up with a story about him sitting in a dentist chair and the world of things that open up around it. So sometimes the concept can just start out with a way to challenge yourself. An example from my practice is I was really interested in the Froggy Went a Courtin' folk song, but I'm not very musical and I didn't want to just sing a song. I wanted to find a way to tell a story out of it, and I couldn't figure out how to do it until I just sort of started thinking about the story, and I realized how hard it would be for a frog and a mouse to actually be married to each other. It would basically be like two people from different religions or something like that. And so my concept became, okay, how could these two, animals in this sense, but really, we're also kind of talking about ourselves at that point. How can two people from completely different backgrounds find a way to make it work? And could they do it? So that's a quick rundown on how I'm thinking about concepts. And I want to make a quick note about using these as a gimmick versus using it to serve the story, because I can be as guilty of this as anybody else. But when thinking about a framing device or a concept outside of your story idea, you really want to be careful to avoid using them as a novelty or just like to look cute or clever due to it giving a lack of substantiality to the story you're trying to tell. I think you really always want to think about using these as how can it enhance my story? How can it serve the story and bring it out, as opposed to how can it make me look like I'm smart or clever? So if you want to take, for example, the Memento movie, which is the movie that goes from backwards to forwards, I think it'd be really easy to go, oh, that's just a clever device, a movie that goes backwards and forwards. Anybody could think about that. But the character in that movie has short-term memory loss, and he can't remember what happens after the period of about 24 hours. And so the reason it starts from the end and goes to the beginning is we discover as the audience what he's been through as he is figuring out where he came from. So it really, and that's kind of heady, but it really works to serve the purpose of the actual storytelling. And if we want to think about the color purple analogy with framing devices, the reason that those letters to God work to serve the story is that Celie is a very dynamic character in the book of The Color Purple. She starts out basically as a child and nearly illiterate and immature and afraid of the world and very subservient to the man who she's been forced to marry. And the way that she talks to God throughout these letters grows, and her relationship to God grows as she grows as a character. And so that way we as the reader get to see how much she evolves without the narrator ever having to say one time, and then Celie grew more educated and her character strengthened and her spirituality deepened, because that's super boring when that happens. Okay. Let's get into another writing exercise. I have talked enough. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to bring up after hearing that? Okay, great. Yeah, you're all pros. Let's see. You mind if I read that, Jackson, out loud? It's sent to me. So the question is, can one hear your story? Oh, I see. Can one hear your story that incorporates communicative trees? And if so, how? As a tree person, I'm very, oh, thank you so much. I would love to share that story sometime. Yes, I don't think we'll have time to do it in this workshop, but yeah, I'll chat with you during the exercise for a second. Okay, so for the first exercise, we're going to take 10 minutes, and I want everyone to take one story idea that you have. You can pull it out of thin air. You know, it can be anything. You can steal my bird feeder idea if you want to. It's totally up to you. And I want you to spend 10 minutes just thinking about all the different ways you could use to tell the story idea that you have. Okay, so let's just take, for example, my bird feeder idea. Maybe one idea is I'm just going to tell a mosaic of stories from the point of view of all the different birds that come in. Maybe another idea would be this story takes place over the course of 100 years in the exact same location. And the only constant thing is that this bird feeder never moves. And a third idea might be, and this is the true story behind this bird feeder, is I'm in a new city to finish this grad school program and have a hard time sort of meeting new people and making new friends. And I thought the bird feeder would be a good idea to hang up, and my little new friends would be the birds that come by. So that would be another way of telling a story about my bird feeder. And if anybody has any trouble or is stuck and like doesn't have a story idea, just message me and we can go into a breakout room and sort of talk through something. But is that clear what the ask is? So just take one little kernel of an idea, anything simple as possible, and just take 10 minutes and write out all the different ways you could use to tell that story. Okay. So I'll set the timer, and again, feel free to turn your camera off. I'll call us back in as it gets a little bit closer. And if you need to talk through anything, just message me. All right. All right. I'll see y'all in a bit. 2 minutes remaining. 2 minutes. Okay, take a few moments to wrap up whatever you are working on, and we'll slowly start to come back into the group. Okay, this is my favorite part. So, is anyone comfortable sharing what they wrote? All right, Kate, way to be brave.
Well, I'm working on a new story about Ella Fitzgerald, and it's going to have a lot of video clips of her. And I didn't, anyways, I came up with, well, I could tell it chronologically. Okay.
Nice.
I could do it sort of an academic, how she developed her voice. But what I really loved was I could invent a memorial service where different people speak and introduce the video clips.
Wow.
And I had her son, the problem with the chronological is she was rather a distant mother to her adopted son, but they did come together towards the end of her life, and he arranged, as she was dying in her home, to have a jazz trio play outside of her room softly to guide her up to heaven. And so having the various speakers and him do that can fit outside the chronological scheme of things. And then there's this wonderful long piece that she did in her 60s where she does scat. And the service will now end with one more performance by Ella. And I'll use that piece as the finale.
Wow. Bravo. Yes.
So, well, thank
Actually
you
good.
for asking the question and framing the frames.
I have to say, when you started talking about the memorial service, and I think others will agree that something really hit hard in hearing about that. That was so beautiful. Gosh, great work. Thank you so much, Kate. Anybody else care to share some stuff that they worked through or came up with? All right, Chris Jackson, you'll be on deck. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I went with the coffee cup.
Nice.
I just was entertained by the coffee cup and the
Love it.
idea that the glaze of the coffee cup has ingredients. Well, one frame could be the progress of all the ingredients toward the coffee cup. I tend to think time-wise linear. So I was trying to get away from that, but it didn't quite go that way. Maybe the frame is the wizard who created the coffee cup. And why would she put all of these ingredients in here? Or maybe the coffee cup, it's from the point of view of the coffee cup, that the cup is self-aware and has been calling to all these ingredients. And the last one I'm really entertained by.
Oh,
We all,
boy.
coffee drinkers have a tendency to think that coffee is magic in and of itself. Well, maybe this is part of a traveling coffee set.
Wow.
So I'm kind of entertained by that because it starts off with people's ideas, preconceived notion of coffee.
I love what you just did there. You really challenged yourself and you did something that is my favorite way to think about storytelling. How can I entertain myself? Because if you entertain yourself, I guarantee you that shows up in the audience and they will feel that from you. Bravo. And you also mentioned something that I think about a lot when I think about this is when you think about all of these different ways of telling a story, you really do start to subvert your audience's expectations. They go, oh, well, she's going to tell a story about a coffee cup. What? Coffee is magic now? Like you really force them
magic. Of course, coffee's magic.
to be active listeners to your story because they don't know what's coming. Thank you so much. Jackson, can't wait to hear what you came up with.
Well, it's just starting to percolate. I wrote a funny song a while ago about clutter and yard sales, and the Billy Bass was a major part of it. And I've never performed it. I just had a good time writing it. But there's a story that I've been wanting to tell for a long time about a serious story about unintended consequences about this New Hampshire Lake Association trying to get rid of all its skunks and trapping them and moving them, and it has this domino effect of ruining the fishing in the lake. And it's a great story all by itself. And I thought I was just going to tell the story, and it would take 3 minutes to tell the story. But then I thought, well, what about if the old grandfather, this little girl's old grandfather, has this mounted, big trout that he caught in that lake there on his thing, and it became the equivalent of a Billy Bass telling her how to fix this problem. As I was thinking about it, is this could be I really heard what you said, gimmick or vehicle. And I said, well, this is definitely a gimmick. And I was thinking, well, if I didn't go with the gimmick, what's another way around this? And anyhow, I did it within the few minutes of this writing exercises. I thought about like a whole nother way to enter this story that I hadn't thought of before, just because I thought of using Billy the Bass. I don't know that I will, but it got me into a whole new entry point.
I love that. And also I will just say, here's what I heard when you called it, the first idea you had a gimmick, which is the idea of this Billy Bass, like guiding someone who stumbles across it. But what I heard is you connecting something from the modern era to a folktale trope, from generations and generations of storytelling, this like mythical creature that guides somebody. So I would say like I heard something pretty sticky and pretty serviceable there in that. So, you know, just to lightly challenge the notion that that was a gimmick. I don't know. I think it's referencing something pretty deep. So good for you. Anybody else? Anybody else want to share? Sheila, yep. I see you,
I'll
Pat. and Steve.
introduce you to my alter ego here.
Wow.
Her name is Baba Kay, and she's had many adventures, and so I'm going to talk about a couple of adventures that we're working on together. She's a very down-to-earth person. She also has the kind of person who's been able to make connections with the wee people in the woods folk here. I live in a rural village. It's a place where there's a lot of poverty, and there's a lot of women who live alone. And I found out how much women around here love rocks. So I have this sense of this place where I live. And what Baba Kay and her friend Sophie have done, in the past, they've gone out at the time of the summer solstice. The summer solstice. And that's when the orchids bloom in the bog here. And Baba Kay discovered remnants of something that had been stolen by the bobble goblins, and that living on stolen magic poisons you and is, you know, a terrible thing. So the point is, or the what the bottom line is, foundation of this is how these older women get by and are so strong together. And so Sophie's the one who's kind of a half and half. She's partly human, but not all the way. And so she has all these old books and things where she looks up information, and she found the way to make the hats they used to make for babies when babies were found under toadstools and in cabbage patches. And so she and Baba Kay are making those, and they're very brave because they know that the bobble goblins would like nothing better than to come and steal the baby bottle hats from them. So it's about this, you know, I just have this strong feeling about I get from the women that I know who persevere living in this difficult place. So one topic they wanted to work on was time, and then my newest one was seeds. But I've been using, you know, this setting, this rural, close to the earth stuff, and seasonal. And I try and find pick a season of the sun, I guess, for each story that helps to frame it that way so that they'll be connected. So of course I feel strongly now about, oh yeah, well, I got to get those seeds. Thinking about those seeds. So anyway, that's in the time when I got just so far and then I got stuck. We're basing it because they're women mostly on the domestic life activities. But yeah, so time is one of those things that just really doesn't exist. But they have a friend who's been saving time, and she saves the time that people waste. And she goes around and gathers up loose ends of time, and she preserves them, and like canning. And she lived in a dirt floored cabin and passed away. And some of this is based on true people who lived here too. Anyway, so the time thing is how to they need to protect this time and see that it's given out the way allotted was the word I was trying to think of, and goes where it's needed to go. We have here a growing population of young people, millennials on down, who have come back here to do some subsistence farming and all kinds of things. And I think that this is kind of a celebration of that too, in these stories. See, this is what I do. I kind of ramble off my point, but
We're happy to hear about it. Absolutely. That is so beautiful and expansive and deep. Oh my gosh. I just want to say, I mean, I know that you prefaced today in your introduction that, you know, you're dealing with this traumatic brain injury, but you are sharp as a tack. That is so cool what you just shared with us. Thank you, Sheila. Wow.
so, well, thank you. I'm so glad you let me share that, because
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
it's good to be with people. Thank you.
it is. And you're in upstate New York as well. Remind us again where you are.
Yes, I am. I'm in upstate New York. I'm in the foothills of the Adirondacks.
I bet it's getting beautiful right about now.
There's a storm outside
Okay.
today.
Has spring has started to show up a little bit?
A spring storm, yeah, like sleet and high winds, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Pat, I saw you, and then Steve, did you want to share after Pat? Did I see you wanting to share, or is that?
Well, I don't want to take other people's time. I'm supposed to be a fly on the wall, but I'm like the other Sheila. I kind of got into this one and wanted to share. But
love to hear what you have to share. And so I'll put you on deck after Pat shares. Thanks so much.
I tend to be entirely practical. So the idea I'm working on would be coming home. And the concept is the realization that it's not a physical place.
Wow.
And while this is my view of coming home, others who have shared the physical places won't see it the same way. There isn't just one path for coming home, but I want to explore mine.
Would you care to share a little bit more about how you're thinking about exploring it? Or and no worries if you shared all as much as you'd like to, but just out of curiosity, specifically what that means to you.
After my first divorce, I sold that house. They had 3 months notice. And when I got there to pick up the check and move on to earn my master's degree, the people still hadn't figured out all the paperwork and told me this sad story about how they were going to have people work overtime. And besides, they decided they needed one more letter from my soon-to-be ex-husband. I had 2 boys sitting in the car. It was loaded, so it just groaned most of the time. And I had 37 cents. I leaned over and beat on the banker's desk. His things jumped a bit. And I said, "You've had 3 months notice. If you can't get it done in 3 months, get out of the goddamn business." And I said, "I'm going to go to the McDonald's and get something for my sons. When I come back, I will just pick up the check. Otherwise, get out of the goddamn business." One of the times I needed to go another place in order to come home. Lots of parts.
You've done something very, very, very smart, which is you are telling a story very specifically from your life, but when you framed it as thinking about all the ways in which you go home in ways that you never thought about, a way that you would conventionally go home, I'm thinking about what that means to me now too, through your story. So you're getting me to connect to my own story through your story, thanks to the way that you set that up. That is so brilliant and moving.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. All right, Steve, let's hear what you got.
Okay, so from the sublime to my idea, I've been have on my notebook. I have a note that says "really smart car." I bought a car. We just bought a 2023 car, and it has all these things, and it connects to the internet, and it knows how to, it's amazing, and it's not autonomous, but I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, what if you did a really smart car, that just takes over the world? And so I had been stuck on the idea of my neighbor really getting into cars and me kind of really liking computers, and then we get together and start building this thing. But through this exercise, I thought, well, wait a minute, the cars are already connected by themselves. So what if, for instance, there was a big crash on the interstate, and the cars started getting together going, boy, these stupid humans, look what they did, and that's how they so the consciousness emerges through this car collective. Or maybe there's robot aliens that start taking over this and develop these cars. And then the one that I kind of stuck on and it kind of jazzed me was, okay, so these cars are getting together online, and so my truck is doing online dating and meets Chat GPT. So anyway, that's the one that sort of got me sort of jazzed.
I just love it. And I want to say it's hilarious and imaginative. And I'm looking around the grid and everybody is just like smiling and lighting up as you're talking about it. And it is pointing to a very real tension that I think we have with this emerging technology. And the more that we hear about the AI, I think you're onto a essential nerve, and you're using humor and levity to sort of talk about it so we can laugh about it and deal with something that is kind of complicated to talk about out loud. Like, are we really intimidated by machines? But kind of, yeah. Thanks. Thank you so much for sharing that. How cool. We still have a few minutes if anybody who hasn't shared feels called to after hearing some of these awesome stories. Okay, yes, Sheila Arnold, please bless us with your presence.
Oh, it's so much fun. And all I have to do is say, Steve, first is just that the morning that you wake up and your truck's not there, he rolls in a little late. I want to hear about that morning.
And nocturnal lines on.
Please let us all know when that happens so we can just go live in the woods.
So I have some words I've been writing down lately, and they've been leading themselves into a story, but I haven't figured it out. So the words are this: collecting art, which is tattoos, and a young woman described as self-imposed graffiti. Number 2, that young people, college students, are entitled, immortal, and infertile. Number 3, passing through. Bill Harley said this when we were at the Arc in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and how people were writing their names on the doors. The singers and songers that have gone through there were passing through, and how they wanted to be remembered. And number 4, which is life is a gateway drug. We're talking about gateway drugs, and my friend said life is a gateway drug. And so I really was looking at those 4 things. They just won't come apart right now. And I really struggled with having a frame with this. It's 4 parts of life. I've kind of put them in the order of the age of the people that said them. Maybe it was memory. I started looking at what it was about, maybe youth being remembered, life. There were 2 women, 2 men that talked, 2 older men, 2 younger women. They're from 4 different states. And then I wrote down, what is our drug, our addiction? Could it be to just being remembered? And then I got thought, because I kept doing what you said. You said to let it go, to keep kind of pushing it, which I thought was interesting. So I didn't walk away from it yet. And so then I wrote down gateways, open doors, no open gates, which are different. And where do gates lead us? And I think I figured out what to do, and it's the gates. And the gates, one of the gates you open in this particular gate, it leads to tattoos, not in a way that I think of it, but as collecting art. And then the next gate goes, that you really do feel like you're on top of the world. You're never going to be able to stop. Nothing's going to stop you. So you're in, you walk through a gate that life is just what it is in front of you, and you're good, and you can do anything. Then you have a gate to just passing through where you recognize there's mortality somewhere, and you just want to leave something behind. And then that final gate is you realize that life has been the entire gate. It's been the whole thing. It's not a gate to something. It just is something. And I think that's what I found in this. Now, how I'm going to put it all together, I don't know, but I think that's where it's kind of coming from, is that place.
Wow. Sheila, I just want to, bring to light what you did, which was you had 4-ish ideas that you were excited about, and you found a way to take one of those ideas, use it as a frame to connect all of the other ideas. Because what I was hearing you say is those might all be 4 individual stories. You weren't sure what to do with any of those things, and you found a way to connect them into a singular idea, which is so cool. Oh my gosh, thank you. And yeah, it goes without saying, not every story is going to have a framing device. Some stories are meant to be told A to B to C, and that is perfectly wonderful. And all this is just a generative exercise. Maybe you find something new or something fresh as a way to tell a story, or just a way to unblock yourself, like what Sheila just shared. And that may not be the final way that you tell that story, but I feel like something broke loose that will jostle itself into a new image. Y'all, I am just so moved and honored that you would share this work with me today. Thank you so much. We are right at time. I was going to do a whole other exercise where we flip it and we take a concept and come up with stories to apply to that concept or apply to that frame. But, we're out of time. And also that's something you can always have in the back of your mind. Before you leave, if anybody wants to share or put in the chat, like any performances or anything you have coming up, any ways that we can support you, I'd love to spend the last minute or so just sharing that with each other. And otherwise, thank you so much. This was a true honor for me to spend time with you. So have a great rest of the festival.
And I will be doing the Worldwide Virtual Storytelling Guild meeting, which is on your virtual track. If you want to tell a story, log in at 3:00, but the meeting itself starts at 3:30.
So I have all that information I'm about to put over in the chat right now. And I do want to thank you again. And I would ask a couple of things from you. I have an evaluation form that we would really love for you to fill out, particularly this year, back and what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then also want to get that done, get you out of here, because the next annual meeting and the Brother Blue, I don't think, of course, they're not going to be right on time. Because why would you be right on time? There, as Chris just said, the World Virtual Storytelling Guild and SWAP and Facebook on Facebook, and that will be from 3:30 to 5 p.m. today for you to join. So if you want to keep your chat, you can do that. You can love keeping that chat. If you go to the chat area and you press on those three little buttons at the bottom, and then click on that, and that will save your chat, and it will save it to your computer under Documents, and it'll create its own folder for you called under Zoom. So, and just really quickly, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at stf at assist.art, and we will answer those questions for you. Cory has done a fantastic job, and I am just delighted and pleased and to have really been able to be here with you all to laugh and share and also get so excited about what's coming down the road. Thank you so much, Cory, for what you've offered to us. This could have been a much longer workshop, I think, and we would have had even more things. I feel like each one of us is, hopefully we're walking away with something new that we have put into our pocket to be able to do. Thank you for your encouragement, Cory. Someone remarked how you are such a good model for being a host, for being a workshop presenter. Thank you all so much. Get on over to Brother Blue for the virtual, and I will see you all later. Have a wonderful sharing the fire adventure, and we'll see all of you later. Bye-bye.